Hello everyone, welcome to the second video on music theory for choral singing and leisure time singers who just want a little more technical and theoretical know-how. In the last video we went right back to basics and had a look at how this thing called a stave is used to illustrate timing, how to identify which stave you should be reading and how different note values dictate timing. If you want to know more about timing, head on over to that video following the link in the description. In this video, we're going to focus on how we notate pitch. I'm really pleased that fills you with so much excitement. Remember, any information on pitch is going to help you greatly in all of your musical endeavours. Don't worry if not everything we talk about in these videos sink in straight away. Take your time and it will all become clear. With that said, let's have a look at the basic principles of pitch notation. What do we mean by pitch? Pitch is how high or how low the note sounds. Remember that last choir rehearsal you were in and you complained that a note was too high and you made a noise that only cats could hear? Well, what you really had an issue with was the pitch of the note. That particular pitch was too high for your voice. If you use technical terms like pitch with a conductor next time you have this issue, they might treat your complaint with the respect it deserves. No promises though. This is a musical note, and we don't know exactly what pitch we should be sounding for this, but what we do know for certain is that this note is higher, but only a little bit, because the stave represents the different pitches in our musical system using each line and space on the stave. This is good because it lets us quickly differentiate between the two, but also keeps the stave quite compact and manageable in height. Isn't that clever? It's almost as if this system went through centuries of development and still works. Early Western musical notation was written in a way that did not specify exact pitches, only the shape of the melodies, indicating when the musical line went up or down. The actual melody would have likely been passed on by ear. As a singer in a community choir or something similar, you could nope out of learning any more than this if you really wanted. Follow the shape of your line and you can't go far wrong, and it can certainly be enough to help your memory from one rehearsal to the next. Here we have two notes. Hello! Again, we don't know exactly which pitch, but we know for certain that the second note is higher than the first. Now we have three notes, don't I spoil you? And we can see that the second note is one step lower than the first. Crucially, we can also see that the third note is the same as the first. Why is that crucial? Well, you can pitch the third note because you've already sung it. Here's a longer example. Now we have 6 notes. Let me play this for you. Whilst I'm playing, see if you can follow the line. Now that you've heard it, I'm going to distract you with something else. Did that distract you enough? Good. Well, how do you think you could sing this musical example now, if I just played the starting note for you? Whoa, now, I can't judge you if you're doing this in your head. Sing it out loud, don't be shy. Did it sound anything like this? If so, congrats! You read some music. You're officially as advanced as monks in the medieval period. If not, well, you're not getting any cake. Next challenge for you, a full set of notes. No, don't leave. We call this a major scale. If we number these notes here 1 to 7, then we get to 1 again. The whole pattern of notes repeats in a higher range, or octave as we know it. Most of us would be fairly comfortable in singing an upward scale. Generally, we do this a lot in childhood and during warm-ups. This is what it looks like notated on a stave, with each note going up by 1 step each time. Oh, just as an aside, the directions of the stems on the notes make no difference to the pitch. They can sometimes help indicate which section of the choir should be singing the notes, but you knew that because you watched my first video many times. An alternative to the numbered system is the tonic solfa, in which we replace the numbers 1 to 7 with do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti before it goes back to do. Now we get to the fun part. We're going to do some exercises. Sweatbands are optional. Let's go up one note. I'll play the first one and you try and guess note 2 of the scale. Do to re. Now let's try jumping straight from note 1 to 3 or do to mi. Then let's try this one, a fourth. Now we go from 1 to 4 or from do to fa. Finally, let's have a go at a fifth. Do to so or 1 to 5. If the Von Trapps can do it, so can you. You might want to revisit this portion of the video a few times and have a practice at this. It's well worth your time practicing jumping to different notes of the scale because it happens all the time in music. This is a treble clef. Essentially, this fixes all of the pitches on the stave. Each of these pitches are named as letters, but as a singer just starting out with this, you don't really need to know about those. In fact, all you need to know is the difference between this symbol and this one. When the two are working together, we're able to cover the entire range of the choir. You know what? This is used on staves that notate the lower notes. So the basses are almost always reading from this. Wouldn't it be nice if it was called the bass clef or something? Oh, it is. Cool. Moving on, here is a diagram covering the general safe ranges of each section of a typical choir. Of course, we all know that one person that can sound like a pterodactyl because they can sing this note, but these are the ranges that are considered safe. Let's be honest, these are the ranges that are actually nice to listen to. But Jason, if this clef covers all the notes from the lowest range and this one deals with all the notes up to the highest, isn't there some overlap? Seriously, how do you keep getting in my house? Yes, there is. Let's look at a note sitting above the top line of bass clef. This exact pitch could be sung by the sopranos and altos, and it would be notated like this. Notice we have added an extra line, which is called a ledger line, by the way. This line temporarily extends the stave, allowing the treble clef notes to continue, in this instance lower than the stave would allow. We can also notate the next pitch up in the same way, using both clefs, by extending the bass clef stave by adding one more ledger line, and then the next pitch. I'll make this point again because it's pretty important. These two notes here are the same pitch. If you played these notes on the piano, you would hit the same key for both. However, because the tenors and basses naturally sing lower, it will feel quite high in their range, and for the sopranos and altos, it will feel quite low. As we mentioned briefly in the last video, choral music will sometimes have an abbreviated score. Occasionally, this will mean that they will show all voices on one stave, and for this, they will almost always use the treble clef. I know, it's not fair. #justice for bass clefs. If they show you all voices reading from the treble clef like this, they don't mean this, because that would be really mean to the basses. They'd be singing very high if they were managing to make any noise at all. It's safe to assume that they mean this, with the lower voices singing an octave lower. There's one more clef you need to get used to, especially if you're a tenor and you're dealing with modern publications, and it's this, the tenor octave treble clef. Sometimes it can be shown as this. You can identify this clef by the dangling, it's an 8. Get your mind out of the gutter. The little 8 is telling us that all the notes on this stave should sound an octave lower than they would on a normal treble clef. All our exercises in this video so far have been done in one key. What that means is that note 1 or do of the scale has been the same every time. In each instance of this video, that's been the pitch of C. So we have been doing all our exercises in the key of C. But that doesn't have to be the case. We can move the do, or note 1 of the scale, up or down, and so long as we keep the relative distance the same between each note of the scale, it makes only a very slight difference to the singer. That's why most people are quite comfortable following a melody in any key without much musical training. It's more often about finding a key that's most comfortable for the singer to sing in, rather than understanding how to change the key. We will look in a future video about how keys work more intently, and we'll continue to look at measuring the distance between notes, which are called intervals by the way, and working on improving our sight reading. Hooray! Best video series ever! In the next video, we'll take a look at how lyrics are written in choral music, and I'll tell you why it's an absolute pain in the cheeks. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments, and I may or may not ignore them. See you next time.